Good evening, welcome, bonsoir, for those of you who speak French. With me, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, number 7 in the world, I think, Maxime.
Yeah.
On the current published list. Number 1 in France, of course. Here to do tonight's masterclass. How many times have you been to Gibraltar now, Maxime? Do you remember?
It's the 5th time.
Your 5th time?
Yes.
And you've had many good results here, but you never won, right? You came second, or you've been into playoff situations, that kind of thing?
No, I mean, in the first 2 events I had 2 terrible results.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, I managed to find the right, chemistry to play and to play well here, because there's no reason not to play well.
No reason not to play well, that's a nice thing to say. Yeah, good. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight and doing this masterclass. We have an live audience here. I hope you'll agree to take some questions afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so off we go. So which game are you going to show us today?
Well, the last masterclass I gave was a game against Ding Liren from China. So for a change, we're going to do the same, but not the same game. I mean, we just happen to have a lot of interesting fights between each other, so, I thought, why not?
So this was played when? When was it played, Maxime?
It was played in Wijk last year.
Right.
So I think at that point in the tournament I was 50%. I had lost maybe two rounds before to Ivanchuk. So it was really a turning point in the tournament, because I think after I won this game I won 2 other. I mean, I won 3 games in a row or something like this. So
right.
It was quite important. So anyway, let's start.
Off you go. Yeah, let's start.
Yeah. So in the opening he played a Cabo-Can and I saw no reason to deviate. I had prepared this line with knight f3, bishop e2 a lot of times. I mean,
Nigel's line.
Nigel plays. I mean, a lot of top players play it. I mean, it's really one of the main weapons with the advanced Cabo-Can, and there are a lot of ways to answer. I mean, for instance, knight e7 and c5, like Ding Liren played, is one option. c5 right away. Bishop b3, queen b6 is also another option, and it's actually very complicated from there, because white goes knight c3, but we're not doing a theoretical course, but things can go really sharp there.
Yeah.
And of course you can play any kind of 2 moves is reasonable. I mean, you can play knight d7, bishop g6, for instance, with sometimes the idea of going knight h6 or knight e7. It doesn't. I mean, it's just really difficult even for me to have a clear idea of the details. So let's just not confuse everyone and just stick to the game.
Knight e7, okay, and then c5.
And c5. So the point here is I mean, the knight is very likely, from e7 is likely to go to c6, and the other knight to d7.
Yes.
This is, but it's very concrete, of course. I mean, when you play such a move like c5, you expect things to go very sharply, and that's what is going in the game. So you go c4.
Yep.
So now this knight cannot go to c6, because then you take on d5, and it doesn't make too much sense. If you take on c4, it's another option. It exists. White goes knight a3.
Right.
And again, it's very sharp and things. But for the game, I had prepared exactly this line with knight c6, d takes c5, d4.
You prepared for this game, this line?
Yes, but it turns out he had prepared it a little bit deeper. But we'll come to that. So queen d7, I think, deviates from, because I think in the 2013 there was a match in the European Team Championship between Russia and Romania, and both Russian white boards played this line, and the games went exactly the same, but I wouldn't be able to tell you how. But it was And the score went 1.5 to 0.5 for Russia. I think Grishuk won against Lupulescu, something like this.
With Queen C7?
Yeah, Queen C7, and I mean, I remember they played a novelty, but I don't remember the details, unfortunately. But anyway, in the game, I had prepared this exact line, and after knight c3, I was expecting bishop takes c5. And there, actually, I do remember the details. And it goes queen b5, b6, because if you play bishop e7, then I just take on d4, and the game is better for white. So b6, knight a4, knight e5, knight takes, knight takes, knight takes e5, queen b5. I mean, there are a lot of options, but I remember that this is very dangerous for black. You just go rook c1 next move at some point before. The pair of bishops is always the mighty weapon.
The mighty bishops.
But in the game, it surprised me because I didn't look at this.
F6. Wow.
And it's actually
amazing.
It happens to be very strong, and so I was scared at that point, but I was very lucky to find, the right way to play against it in a matter of, say, 10 minutes. This way I didn't lose much time, but it was very lucky.
So this was something he had prepared in this line, of course, F6.
Yeah, I think here I used maybe 20 minutes for the next 4 moves, which is just a very lucky process, because there are a lot of options. Of course, you can consider giving up the rook even like this. It just so happens it doesn't work at all. I mean, I take on b7, then it goes rook d8. You can go queen d7 back, and I'm just a rook down. So. But anyway, of course, I mean, it's pretty logical that my knight might
I was going to say, yeah.
Be able to go to d5. And here...
So you played that rather fast, knight d5?
Yeah, I mean, I saw also the... No, what was the really lucky break for me was that I actually saw his next move, king f7. And this is extremely lucky. Because, okay, I mean, long castle looks very natural, because if you take on f6, then black might go queen f7, for instance, knight h5, bishop takes c5.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be better for white, but at the same time, black's pieces are all developed. My king might not be safe at some point after some d3.
Looks like an Albin gambit, that kind of sharp opening with his pawn on d4.
Yeah. No, it's not. I mean, it didn't appeal too much to me, but I had found that I can take on d4 here. And so there are 2 lines here. If you take on d4, I take on d4. Bishop c5 is impossible because of knight b6. And after pawn takes d5, well, just comes back to the other line. So, sorry.
To which line? To the game?
No, to this line. If he takes on d5, now I think the best move is to take with a pawn on d5 and take on d4. And I think in the end white is better here because I threatened some c6. Anyway.
And if bishop takes c5, just talk us through.
I assume rook c4. I'm not 100% sure because I don't remember everything, but I checked, but this looks quite good because
b6 you can sacrifice maybe, no? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. This is probably just bishop e3 is a good option. It looks quite promising. I mean, anyway. I mean, anyways, there's a lot of play. I mean, you can take it for granted.
Yeah.
But anyways, then I was worried about king f7 because, I mean, of course you cannot take on d5 right away because I just take. If the knight moves on another square than a5, then bishop b5 is devastating, and after queen a5, knight a5, I just play queen b4, and again, problems coming.
b6 there, b6?
Bishop b5.
Oh, of course, sorry, yes.
Yeah. So anyway, king f7 came, and here again I had found a lucky break. Because, I mean, if I don't find this move in, say, I mean, if I don't find the idea, I might not spot it for 30 minutes. So the point is, knight takes d4 doesn't work at all now because there is bishop takes c5, and unlike where black had castled, I could go knight b6 check and win the queen. Here's, I mean, the knight is just, you know, in the position where it takes 3 moves to attack the black's king. So I just lose a piece. I mean, I mean, it doesn't end here because it ends when, I mean, black's bishop are a bit in an awkward position, but after queen e6, you attack the bishop on e2. So. Or queen e7, I don't remember what's the most precise. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, I went g4.
Wow, hang on, g4, goodness me.
Yeah, and the point is, if black goes bishop e4, there's a very, I mean, a very cute line I thought during the game. I take on f6 and now I just play knight g5, and this bishop is pretty much imprisoned. So that's good for me. Always a good sign. If the only move to actually not lose the bishop is king e5, it's always a good sign.
King e5.
Also, I learned that there's a new game trending, which is king on the hill, and you win if you bring your king legally to one of these squares. So
in the is it? What game is that called?
King on the hill. I'll have to ask Mike for confirmation. But
on chess.com version 3, you can play king of the hill. Black wins king e5.
Yeah.
King e5, a winning move. King. Hang on, but let's just look at this move g4, Maxime, because you say, yes, I played g4, but nobody in this room would have even thought of g4.
Well, it's...
Can black play rook g8? That's probably too much, yeah?
No, rook g8 is too much. I mean, I just go to the point. I mean, bishop e4, knight f6 was one of the points, and if you play bishop g4, now I play knight g5, pawn takes, bishop takes g4, and my knight is protected.
Right.
And also, I mean, it looks now that I have threats on black's king, so that's always a good thing. Another good thing is that knight e5 is the game. So, yeah, I threaten queen f3 anyway, so knight e5 has to be the move. And after bishop takes g5, you cannot take on g4. Because I just play queen f3 check. Now if the king moves to the king side after queen takes g4, the pawn is again pinned, so you have to go king e8. Here, well, there are two decent options. You can take on g4, pawn takes d5, rook e1 check, bishop e7, and try to find something forcing from there. I think nonetheless that rook e1 right away might be more precise. I mean, but this I'm doing from memory, so...
Yeah, it looks really...
So, I mean, it looks
fierce,
promising.
I mean,
yeah, because you cannot go knight e5, I will just take, knight takes, knight f6, if the king...
And it's check.
It's not yet the end,
yeah.
Because here if you check with the queen is taken, but I just do this. And so anyway, after rook e1 there's probably bad things happening. Let's just say it like this. I mean, now if bishop e7 I can just take on e7. But anyway, bishop takes e5, so this was still Ding Liren.
This is the game, Maxime, yeah?
Yeah, this was still his preparation.
This was still his preparation?
Yeah, of course. And no, I mean, if you're going to go for such a complicated line, you might want to check this kind of
from f6
stuff. No? Yeah. I mean, actually, it was a good sign for me. It meant that g4 is actually a move that the computer approves of, more or less. So, and here I played. I mean, basically, I knew that. I mean, things are really concrete, of course, right now. But black's main line of actions will be the g file, which is pretty clear. And I was not sure how to stop this. My first idea was queen g3. Because now if you take on g4 again, I can take and the pawn is still pinned. I was a bit concerned, say, about h5, bishop h3, and some rook g8, but it actually never works. This is not good for black. So queen g3 was the best move. Here the lines are crazy, but what I can say is that it ends in a forced draw. I think there's...
It ends in a forced draw?
Yeah, I checked this after the game, of course. And I think it goes rook f8. But, okay, I mean, it's just too crazy to try to rebuild this kind of stuff on my own. But I don't know. I think it goes b4, and here I really don't know. I mean, I just know that, as you know, you can expect in such complicated positions, somehow everything. I mean, everything goes into place, and you know, there's a lot of forcing lines. I think it goes still 10 or 15 moves deep, and somehow it ends in a draw. But I really wouldn't be able to tell you right now. You'll have to believe me. And I mean, it's a forced draw, but there are a lot of traps along the way.
Yeah.
It's not really important. I mean, I just can say that queen g3 is the best move.
Right.
But I decided to go knight f6 and bishop h5, which looks pretty normal. I mean, basically, I want to pin this knight on g6, and I also want to
stop him using the g file.
Yeah. The problem is, I think I do not stop seeing problems on the g file. So here, I'm almost sure the right way to play for black. I mean, the best way, because what Liren played was actually very sensible as well. But h6, and after bishop h4, you just play rook 8 g8.
Right.
So knight takes, rook takes, and black's threat, because he actually has one, is to play king f8 and knight f4 next move. And there's not much you can do against that. So bishop g3 is actually a sensible retreat.
Yep.
Anyway, and now you go king f6. And now to actually make a draw with white is a headache. I think it ends in a draw, but...
This also ends in a draw.
Yeah. It always ends in a draw. This is the basic rules of computer chess. I think it goes queen b5 here. It makes sense that it goes with queen b5, but no, I mean, again, there are a lot of fun lines, that's a pity, but yeah, I unfortunately don't remember all of them. That's the problem with choosing this kind of game to show.
It's okay.
But anyway, king g7 is actually a very sensible move.
At this point in the game, more or less, how were you feeling? Do you remember? Did you feel like you'd...
well, I mean, I knew that I had taken him out of his preparation with knight f6 and bishop h5, so I knew it was not the most...
you knew that because he started thinking a lot?
Yeah, he started thinking, so I knew it was not the most precise way to play, but at the same time, it's a good thing. So, you know, I was not sure how to feel, but, you know, it's a complicated position. There are a lot of things to calculate, so, you know, may the best player win, you know, as they say.
So he played king g7?
Yeah. And the point is, after queen g3, just play rook f8 and, you know, threatens my knight.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, I can never play f4 because of this recheck. I mean, this is quite an important resource he has. If I go bishop f4 now, because it looks like a very sensible move to make, I think you can just take on c4. Yeah, because now after knight g4, now the knight.
King takes f6 was not possible?
King f6, queen g5 check, maybe. King f7, bishop e5. It might work out, it might not also, but knight takes e4 attacking the knight looks very sensible.
Yeah. Hang on, but knight takes h7 then, Maxime?
Knight h7, yeah, that might work. So, rook h7, bishop g6, I assume. Yes, that might be good. So probably you're right, then probably it goes king f6.
Let's have a look. King 6 knight.
Yeah, let's have a look. It cannot hurt. Or maybe it can, but we'll have to deal with it. And rook g8.
Yeah. Strange position.
No, but here, you know, my bishop goes to g3. I really think it should more or less work out for me. I remember that I was I was not happy with bishop f4, so there must have been a very good reason for that, because it looks very sensible. Could it be bishop e7? No, bishop e7 is... It cannot be bishop e7. Hang on. Yeah, anyway, if I move my knight, knight h7 comes.
Yep.
Oh, it's just really unclear what's going on, but yeah. Okay, I remember anyway that, you know.
So
bishop f4 is a sensible option.
for some reason you rejected it. You rejected bishop f4 for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe you thought after king takes f6 it wasn't so bad for black, didn't you?
No, but here, here it's probably not so bad, but I would have loved to get to this position because this knight cannot move for a long time. My threat is b4, so this is definitely not the reason I rejected.
Not to play yes, right.
Maybe bishop d6. This is the alternative. Yeah. Bishop d6. And again, it can go crazy. Rook takes d4, rook takes f6, rook takes d6, queen takes d6, bishop g6, rook takes g6, bishop e5, and bad news for the queen, yeah? This one is pinned. So probably it was bishop d6.
And some knight takes h7 not working now. No, because rook takes f4. Yeah.
Yeah, because no, or even, worst case, you know,
and
because you're always looking at worst cases.
Yes.
And here
No, it's different.
It's definitely good for black.
Yep. Interesting.
So I played rook e1. Rook takes f6. Here, of course, I cannot take on f6. I can, but it's not too good because then I take on e5 and rook
like
g8.
the last line, yeah.
It might not be the end of the world, but it might after bishop d6, just to keep the bishop protected, and then queen h1.
Yeah.
So anyway, I took on e5.
How, just sorry, Maxime, rook e1, when you played rook e1, can we just have a quick look?
Yeah.
So instead of bishop f4, you played rook e1, and he played... He
Rook
can't
takes
play
f6.
anything else like bishop d6 here?
Bishop d6 now comes the move I was waiting for a long time.
Oh, because he has no check anymore with d3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he has to take on f6. And here I was feeling pretty confident, but for bad reasons. So that's always bad, but well.
Confident for bad reasons?
Yeah, because I miscalculated something. Basically, I know that I should play rook e1 here, and after bishop d6, play bishop f4. And the good news is I'm not worse, the bad news is I'm not better.
It's another draw.
Yeah, no. Chess is so boring that even this kind of crazy position always end in a draw if both sides play decently. So what can we do except, make it even more crazy by making actual mistakes?
I've forgotten whose move it is. It's black's move here.
Yeah, it's black's move. I cannot recall the actual most precise way to make a draw, but it exists. Maybe. No, I don't think it. Because I do threaten rook takes c6 here, for sure.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to take a decision. I guess rook takes f4 looks like a candidate move. queen takes f4, and now maybe something like queen takes c4 simply. And I mean, as long as you don't get mated with black, suddenly this queen on c4 is looking quite nice. And if rook c1, maybe even queen d3.
Yeah.
Also, it does look a bit tricky now. This I don't like for black. Hang on.
Maybe after rook c1 you could play rook h4.
No, then rook takes c4.
Oh, and you exchange done. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Then you have to be correct here. Well, I mean, worst case scenario, you're a pawn down, but normally you don't get a pawn down in these positions. So that's not how it develops from here.
So white threatens rook takes e6.
Sorry?
White threatens rook takes e6. Yeah. The threat.
Yeah, white threat.
So if not rook takes f4, what could black play?
Maybe this. Maybe this is the way. Rook f6, and now if you take on e6, I take on f4. This could very well be misery. Because after rook takes c6, now I take on g3, rook e7, rook f7, and this rook on c6 is attacked. And also the square on c7 is controlled, so there's no intermediate check or whatever. And if you go rook e7, I guess king f8 is just more than fine for black. So rook f6 might be the way. But I could be wrong. I mean, it could very well not be this, but it looks like it should be.
Maybe c5 then Maxime at the end, no? But you don't mind that?
Yeah, c5. I will probably just take on e5 now. I mean, I win one tempo.
Yes.
And to win one tempo is usually a good thing, unless you get into mutual zugzwangs, then it's a bad thing. But, with that many pieces on the boards, winning a tempo is generally a very good sign. So, I played bishop f4, and, maybe 2 minutes after I played it, I cannot really remember, I saw why this was a very bad idea.
So this was based on a miscalculation, you were saying, this move?
Complete miscalculation. And after this, I'm actually in a lot of trouble. I mean, it doesn't look like it, because it seems I have my own traps up against black's king, but, chess is a very concrete game, so if you make one, inaccuracy, you can get under a mating attack. And the one I missed... Oh,
bishop e7, I thought you were going to say something else.
No, bishop e7, this...
I was looking at d3, Maxime, I just thought of the move d3, I mean, I haven't never seen this in
After
before.
d3 I have bishop takes rook takes c5. I mean, I forgot to mention that I do have a threat.
Right. Show us.
Queen takes e5, bishop e5 check, and now wherever the king moves is an issue. I mean, you can actually maybe play king g8.
Oh, because of f2.
And king f8, but it doesn't, I mean...
Wow. Yeah.
I'm also a piece up, it might count for something. Right now it might not, but in the later stage of the game, it might. And also, there's still d2 here, so I might, it's not. Yeah, I might restrain from this. But, I mean, worst case, of course, I can take on h8, play rook d1, but I remember that I had this kind of ideas always around.
Right.
Anyway.
So bishop e7, that's the right move, yeah?
Yeah, that's the right move, and what I missed is after rook e1, I mean, it looks very logical, and it looks like I'm doing absolutely fine, threatening rook takes e6. But after bishop f2, king f2, rook h2.
Yeah, that maneuver, sorry Maxime, bishop e7, h4, take on f2 is quite amazing actually.
Yeah, I mean...
Surprising, because he's trying to play d3 and he's coming around the side to
no,
attack
it's
f2
very easy to miss at first that, this bishop f2, rook h2 will work, but it just makes by force in 2 moves, or 1, if you play king g3. So, of course, I was kind of hoping he wouldn't play bishop e7, but, when I saw it, I also saw that I could play something, and
could play something fast to try to avoid.
Yeah, well, just tell us about the psychology of that. So after playing bishop f4, you very quickly realized it was a mistake, yeah?
Yeah. And then I thought, okay, after bishop e7, I have only two options. So one is to go rook f1 to protect f2, but it's also a very sad option to make because now the rook has absolutely no business doing on f1, and you can just go rook f8 or queen takes c4 right away, and it doesn't look too good.
So you had, before he played bishop e7, you had your reply ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I play rook e2, but I had seen also what was the unpleasant reply to this one, and it goes rook h5. The point is, you threaten now rook takes f4, queen takes f4, rook g5.
Yeah.
And if I remember well, after rook e1, it doesn't help because black goes bishop h4, intermediate move, because if you go rook takes f4, I have rook takes a6, but the bishop h4, which might be something he missed, because I don't know exactly what, you know.
But now he gets the g5 square, right?
After bishop e5, you just go king h7,
yeah.
Queen g2, because now my bishop is ready to come back to g3, but here's an unpleasant move. I think it's rook takes c5. If you take on c6 now, rook takes c2 is game over. And if you take on e5, I think just bishop f2, queen f2, rook f2, and this endgame is quite bad for white. You just go queen c4 and, you know, pick up the pawns. That's not too good. That's never too good. But yeah, I mean, rook h5 looks like a very natural move to make. I think he missed bishop h4.
Are you saying that black has the initiative now?
Yeah, I'm definitely much worse.
Right.
I mean, I was not sure how much, but I was not sure whether I had a defense or something like this. But I think this is the only way to play for white. Here I don't remember whether king h6 or king h7 is most precise and for which reason, but I mean, in the end, black is just much better, and it goes straight up to this line.
Something like this, yeah.
And that's not too good. I mean, the deep pawn is also a threat. Really, I mean, you're suffering to get maximum alpha point, and probably you won't get it. So that's never good news.
And that's more or less the fourth line, is it? After
Yeah.
rook h5?
Yeah, it's more or less the first line. But queen takes c4, no, that was good news.
That was good news.
Yeah. And after rook e1, suddenly, I mean, not only I'm never going to get mated after queen takes c4, I mean, it was just too greedy. I mean,
This pawn is not really important, right?
No, it can be, because you can get into an endgame, but I know there were other forces at stake, and you know, a king is much more important than a pawn. But okay, he knows that, he just missed the concrete way, but you know, you can feel that queen takes c4 is just not the way to go in this position.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I can see that, yeah, just...
Yeah.
Did you ask him after the game why he rejected rook h5? He just didn't see it, or do you remember?
I probably didn't see bishop h4, but still.
Right.
I mean, no, of course, if you don't see bishop h4, rook h5, rook e1 is unpleasant because
of that, yeah.
So, you know, there are a few reasons, but, you know, I mean, queen takes c4 would not have crossed my mind, but probably missed, you know, maybe he missed rook e4, so. Because no, I mean, it just lost the momentum, and after d3, rook e4, very important to protect the bishop on f4. Maybe it's only bishop e5, I don't know.
Ah, right, yeah. And that makes a big difference, no? Playing rook e4 first.
Yeah.
Because you want to take on e6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm getting e6. And no, yeah, I definitely have the attack going for me. And well, now the things are not going to be as crazy, so, but more easily.
Now you're better or winning?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think there might be still a way to draw. Always.
Always.
But I cannot. I mean, here I definitely cannot. Maybe. Maybe this is the way to draw.
And then
this is really, really deep.
d2?
No, bishop f6. And now whatever I do, bishop e5 or rook takes f6, it doesn't really matter. I think it goes d2, and something like this is still a draw. I mean, right now I don't see how it can not be mate, but I remember it's not mate. Well, I mean, this looks so tricky for black. This looks... No, this looks like it's mate. I'm
Rook
probably...
F8?
Rook F8? Yeah, you just take and you play queen d6. And rook e7 check. So, if you ask me, I'm going to tell you that there was still a way to draw, but I would never be able to tell you how this. That's kind of the problem of this game again. I mean, just without a computer by your side, you're never going to be able to grasp all the lines. I mean, you have to rely on your intuition,
What about
and that's what I did for most.
What about d2 instead of bishop f6, Maxime, here? d2 here, is it possible?
d2, it might be the way. It might be the way. But, yeah, I mean, I know, I saw this, yeah, bishop d2 and rook e7, and white is definitely on the pressing side. So, okay, I think it goes queen c2.
After d2, bishop takes d2, can black play bishop h4?
Yeah, but bishop c3 check. I mean, no, I think we're not going to find this draw. I mean, I remember it was really deep, and queen d5 looks like, you know, a very solid move to make, and bishop f6.
Right.
So, you know, it's all very logical.
This is the game, yeah?
Yeah, this is the game. And now, thanks to a few tactics, I really go on the upside after rook e5.
Wow.
I mean, this is really not deep. I mean, this is nothing compared to 2/3 of the game before, but it's also
an attractive move, though. It's
yeah, it's attractive and it's quite important. And because I could play rook e6 right away, but of course it's much better to bring the queen down to h3. And now after rook e6, I think he didn't help himself here. I would definitely have played rook h4 here with black. You threaten rook g4, so I probably have to take. Rook takes. Maybe was concerned about rook takes f6 and bishop e5, but after rook f3, you still get decent chances to hold this endgame. So I would actually have played bishop g3, and at some point taken back this pawn on d3 and be a pawn up.
That's the best you can get, huh?
And be much better.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in the game, it took on g3 right away. So, I mean, you didn't have to ask me twice, and now.
And now your structure is
much better.
That's the point. Now that's.
I mean, I can create a pass pawn much easier, because the problem with h and f pawn against g pawn, if you want to create a pass pawn, you generally have to sacrifice one of the pawns, and that's always, you know, much worse than, you know, just pushing f4, g4, f5 and collecting the pass pawn.
It's interesting to me that in such a sharp, fascinating game that at now a critical moment, the positional feature is the most important one, which is just pawn structure from black's point of view.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the only important thing, of course. I mean, we can see the difference in activity in pieces.
Yeah.
Because if you admit that, you know, white's rooks are on d1 and b3 and black's bishop is on c5 hitting at f2, something like this, you know, you really probably have decent chances to hold. Here it's just not the case. I mean, you cannot move your rook, you cannot move your bishop. Right now I threaten rook takes f6 maybe. So he has to go rook h5. And I just play b3 for the sake of playing b3. After rook a5, a4. Well, after b5 I have a pleasant choice between rook d5 and rook takes f6. I'm guessing picking up the piece might be a good idea.
Even bishop d2 maybe.
Yeah, even bishop d2. So anyway, I mean, rook a5 is just a shot for nothing. He played g5, I played bishop e3, now I attack this pawn on a7. It's just completely lost after b6, rook takes d3. I mean, again, all my pieces are much more active. If he goes rook f5, I might even have g4, bringing the rook back to a5. And then, you know, I probably won't calculate too much and just bring my king to the party. That's always a good thing to do in the endgame. First, improve your positions, then try to find some tactics. unless you find the tactics immediately. That might also happen, but you know, it generally is much more likely to happen with your king on e4 than on g1. So anyway, he played rook c7. He tried desperately before the time control to manage to find, you know, a way to bring his pieces back into play.
Right.
That's what he did, but I mean, it's clear it's not enough. No, yeah. The point is, after rook takes c7, he cannot take with the king, because after bishop d2, if rook c5, bishop b4 is why he cannot take, and if rook e5, rook e3. So in both cases, I exchange the rook and I win the pawn on g5. So he has to take with the bishop, and now I play bishop d2, bringing his rook out of control for the a pawn. And now I threaten bishop b4, so he has to give up his a pawn, because after e5 I just go rook b7 or bishop e3. Either way should be good. So he goes king g6, but yeah, here suddenly I'm just threatening mate. I mean, after f4 he resigned, because if he takes and plays, say, rook e4 to prevent f5, I will just go probably bishop. No, bishop c3 is not a good idea. I think I should go any move but bishop c3. No, actually bishop c3 is completely fine, yeah? Bishop d6, rook g7.
Check and rook f7.
Yeah, this is absolutely fine.
And rook f6.
This is more than enough. But I can also play rook c7, of course. This might be a good idea, just to threaten a5 or rook c6 check. So, I mean, of course, the end of the game, I mean, developed very fast after, say, rook takes c6, rook d6, and rook e5. And it was actually a bit anticlimactic, considering how many options we had to consider in the middle game. I mean, how many things we had to evaluate. And, well, I mean, of course, we both made some mistakes. We both made a lot of mistakes, but still, I think we did a pretty good job.
Do you think queen takes c4 was the turning point in that game?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a few turning points, but queen takes c4 was probably the last turning point, because, I mean, if I remember well, queen c2 is a draw, but it's definitely not human one. So, but rook h5 is a very human move, and if you manage to find the follow-up with bishop h4, then, I mean, it's definitely the move you're going to make, and then my life wouldn't have been easy, for sure. So, yeah.
Which was the most difficult move in the game for you? Do you remember? The one that maybe took you most time, or the one that you were least certain of when you played it?
Yeah, so for some reason I was pretty sure of my g4.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, knight d5 and g4. I think the most difficult move was really this one, this 18th move. I mean, I didn't make a mistake, but I think queen g3 was really appealing to me as well. And, you know, it's definitely the position where you have to take the right decision for the game to go on your, you know, on your own standards, and to ask your opponent to find the most precise moves.
This was the point, if I understand correctly, where you took him out of his preparation, knight f6?
Yeah, and at the same time I didn't play the most precise moves. The most precise is queen g3. But anyway, this was really the point where I spent the most time. I think I took at least 30 minutes to play knight f6. And I think at least 20 of those minutes were spent on queen g3.
And just remind us, you rejected that move because of?
For definitely wrong reasons. I rejected it because of h5, bishop h3, and some rook g8. It never works for black. Probably some b4 comes along the way.
And the fact that knight on f6 controls g8 was obviously an incentive to put the knight there.
To play knight f6. Of course, I missed that he can actually not care at all about this and play this way. Yeah, because I also remember there were a lot of funny lines, and this it would be a shame to miss mentioning it. So bishop e7 looks like a very logical move to make, to pick up the knight, but here comes rook takes d4, bishop f6, and rook f4.
Wow, look at that.
And
That's
this
nice.
is actually quite problematic for black because you cannot take any of white's pieces. So white is just probably winning here. And actually this was the other incentive for me to play knight f6.
Yeah, you saw this nice line and you thought that.
Yeah, and I saw
Okay.
that, okay, I mean, I shouldn't be losing by force because my king is kind of protected at this moment, but of course it's never too easy. Yeah, and if you play bishop e7 right away, oh, no, it just does that. If you play bishop e7 right away, then I take, d4, bishop f6, and rook f4. Knight d7, and no, yeah, just rook d1, and rook takes d7 next.
So
This-
with or without h6, bishop h4, it's the same line, right?
Yeah, yeah, but except with h6 you...
This knight is loose.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, the knight is loose, and yeah, but here the knight is not loose. But of course, after rook takes d7,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it might not be so bad for black, but actually it probably is because I definitely have the attack.
Well, can you play e5 or something? But it looks very.
No, if I have rook takes d7, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
you can play rook d8 maybe.
Mm.
Still, it looks quite early. I might even go queen c3 first and ask even more questions.
Mm. Yeah. Okay, well, any more questions? Who has a question from our audience here about that amazing game that Maxime has just shown us? Anyone brave enough to ask a question?
Can I ask a general question?
By all means, if Maxime, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Amateurs are always interested in how grandmasters train and practice. So if you had a day to spend on chess, how would you use that time?
I'll just repeat the question for people listening. If you had a day, well, of course you have days to spend on chess. How do you spend a day training at chess? What's your typical, if you have such a typical working day at chess, when you're at home?
Well, when I actually make my brain work, these days, it's not so much me who is doing the job. I mean, because it's really, a lot of headaches in the opening preparation, considering that we know more or less have equal means, all of us, with the computers going really strong. So the human intervention is really definitely not as big as before and is getting lower and lower. So it means that, you can use brute force and on openings, and it's the most important part of our job in between tournaments, just to look at computer lines and try to find some positions where it doesn't really grasp everything and where you can find some subtle ideas to put problems, even in terms of human practice, meaning in an actual game, even if it wouldn't be working so well against a computer, but fortunately we're not yet. We're not anymore playing against computers. So this is mostly part of our daily training. I also do some tactics exercise to stay sharp. So I do two types of exercise. One is solving studies, generally not too difficult because difficult studies are actually extremely tough and I cannot solve most of them. But
Do you mean endgame studies, Maxime?
endgame studies, yeah.
Right, okay.
Or otherwise I do basically what I call cheap tactics. So you just use a tactics server. There are a few of them on the internet, and you just solve as many problems as possible in as few seconds as possible. So, but this is most of my training, of what my training looks like.
Interesting. Yes.
Do you find that when someone prepares and the other guy sort of starts thinking early in the game, if he actually survives, on the practical level he has a better chance during the game because he has started thinking earlier?
Is
The
that
brain is more adapted to thinking.
let me just repeat the questions. Yeah, so that's about surviving, so like a bit like today, surviving one's opponent's opening preparation and getting onto first ground, if that gives you some psychological advantage.
No, that's an interesting point, and indeed, I mean, it helps that, you know, you've started pondering on the position where your opponent was basically trying to remember his lines. That's definitely not the same type of work. At the same time, you know, in general, when I do play a preparation myself, you know, I try to really get a pause in between moves, even during my preparation, just to make sure why this particular move didn't work, was not suggested by the computer, and so on. And so, you know, I try to limit this disadvantage, but indeed, I mean, it is really tricky, even for us in practice, not to fall into this trap of just playing your moves too quickly to put pressure on your opponent, and then when you actually have to think, they say that the most dangerous, I mean, the most tricky move you have to make is the one after your preparation has ended, and I have made countless mistakes on that one move.
And is it not true, like you showed us in this game, that one opponent or the other, you can feel when your opponent is out of his or her preparation? That moment?
Sometimes
or do you sometimes bluff a little bit like that?
Yeah, sometimes it's not that easy to guess, but here it was completely obvious, and here it wouldn't have made sense for him to bluff, because, I mean, f6 can only be preparation. Then king f7 has to be the follow-up, so basically, I mean, it's clear that it's going to be preparation up to here, because otherwise, I mean, otherwise it's just crazy. So you cannot even allow to spend time on this kind of bluff. I mean, it's just useless. Sometimes it does make sense when the position is, you know, much less forcing, you know, in some kind of Will Lopez, where it's all about maneuvers, and then you can bluff. Then you can spend some time, you know, to set your pieces in the right way, and your opponent might not realize that you're
still in your preparation.
Yeah.
Yes, next question.
If you're facing in that kind of position where well, you're facing a preparation, and it's a very difficult position when there are a lot of things, as you say, even after knight d5, which is very concrete, there was king f7. If you had another solution that was calmer, with nothing too difficult, etc., would you actually prefer the calmer situation for practice or for no practical reason, or would you actually keep going with your knight d5 move and very difficult
Okay, so the question is, so 95, it looked to us anyway, watching very complex, tricky move. Yeah, if you'd have had a calmer solution, if Maxime had a calmer solution with a sort of playable calmer solution, would he have gone for that instead?
Well, it depends on many things. I mean, it depends on your actual opponent. I mean, if you feel your opponent is actually thriving on complicated positions, you might want to take a step back. If you feel your opponent's preparation might just be too good, too deep, you also might want the calmer solution, but sometimes it just makes sense to throw in the ring and, you know, try to deliver a few punches. That, I mean, it's also important that, you know, your opponents know that they cannot just play something very sharp and you'll bail out because you don't remember or you've never looked at it.
So it's about fear and about respect, and maybe at the highest level, and if you believe the move is best and it's sharp,
exactly,
then you still play it. We've got another question here, Maxime, from somebody watching at home, which I think you can answer, and then we'll go back to our audience. Who was your favorite player growing up, or which player would you say influenced you? Actually, well, you give your answer first, and then I'll tell you something. Yeah. So who was your favorite player growing up, or which player would you say has influenced you most?
No, I mean, I was definitely most impressed by the games of Bobby Fischer back in these days. And yeah, but I cannot say influenced me. I mean, I don't know whether my play was influenced. Maybe in the openings, my play was influenced by some players, but you know, Grenfell and Najdorf is actually something that I picked up at the age of 12 to 14. I mean, 12 for the Grenfell and 14 for the Najdorf. So it doesn't really come to this. I mean, and I try to play in my own way. Of course, it's a lot about calculations, and sometimes you do make mistakes. And of course, sometimes you also have to play, much paler games than the one I just showed. I mean, you really have to be you have to be able to play any sort of position nowadays, even if you might not like them as much as the one I got here. But you really cannot, just play only for calculations, because simply your opponents do sense it, and they might want to find a good way to avoid this and just make you think about more general positions. And when things go this way, generally, I mean, I've had a few painful losses. I mean, in this way, where I was not able to develop any kind of sensible calculation, and that helped me later on to become a bit more universal.
I mean, the question that I was reminded of was not quite the same question that we asked Vichy. Was somebody from the audience asked Vichy which player in history would he most like to play against? And you probably saw his answer. Did you hear what he said?
Morphy.
Paul Morphy, he said. So could we ask you that question?
Yes, you can, but I'm not going to come up with an answer right now. So let me think.
You have a think about it.
This, taking a sip of wine will help me a lot.
Great. It's great. You have a little think about it. You don't have to answer now, but if you could play anyone in history.
Who was the audience favorite, actually?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Living or Dead? Kasparov?
No, but
Bobby Fischer? I don't know.
I mean, I played Gary, even if it was only for Blitz. I did play him. So of course, it's definitely not the same, but I mean, it takes a bit of the spice off. So.
I suppose it's a bit like if you had a hero, or maybe a best games collection, or were there certain players when you were very young whose games you particularly looked up to? Or
no, of course. I mean, there were a lot of those games, but in general, I mean, I would like to have a fight on really. I mean, maybe Capablanca. I mean, just to see if he would shut my brain off, basically. I mean, I like challenges, so trying to find the player who has the most chances to shut any kind of calculations of the board.
A style completely different from yours,
yes,
at the highest level, would be a real challenge. Yeah.
Yes.
So it was interesting what you were saying about you've become like having a more universal style. I mean, I'm thinking of people like Morozevich and Jobava and these kind of players who kind of have, or Shirov, who have many games like the one you've just shown us. Do you feel that is that your natural style? If you could, every game would be like this, for better or worse?
Maybe not every game, because I mean, sometimes you also need a rest. You cannot play games like this every day, because it would just ask too much from your brain, basically. But in general, I like chess as a show, and of course, this kind of games is always good news, not only for me, but also for everyone watching, I guess.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Well, yes. This F6 move was a move 22 in that game. Yes. About how long is your normal preparation? I mean, when you prepare against an opponent, how far is the lines you're looking down?
How deep can one's preparation go?
Well, I mean, I cannot really give exact numbers because I mean it can go up to move 15 or up to move 45 or even longer.
I mean, your game today, for example, would seem to be quite heavy on preparation. Or
Yeah, definitely. But the point is, we look at the position basically. I mean, if we can, we try to. I mean, if it's a forcing line, for instance, we'll analyze it until more or less things are very clear, and as a certain top player likes to say, things are sterilized. But
not stabilized.
no, sterilized, yeah. Just until there's no more action. And of course, the problem is with recent computers, it's becoming more and more easy to do that. But in say like a less concrete line like Will Lopez, I mean, we just look at the middle game position. Of course, we try to find some subtleties. So of course, some concrete moves which will make us win one tempo or make us go a bit faster on our general plan, and might cause some concrete problems. But it's really a lot about playing the games out and in general terms, and just make a few moves. But of course, if it's not concrete, you cannot analyze it too deeply. I mean, it's just asking too much even from nowadays computers. But of course, so I mean, really in forcing lines you can go as deep as you need, and in less concrete lines you really try to find a position where you think you will have chances and where you think which you think is suitable for practical play.
Maxime, question, another from an online viewer. So I'm sure a lot of people are watching this this masterclass. How did you train when you were a 2300 player?
Well,
can you remember that long ago?
No, that was a long time ago, but I was not. I mean, I was probably 12 years old or something like this. But anyway, I mean, there I had.
Were you really 2300 at 12?
Yeah,
Well,
12 or 13, but probably 12. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But
how did you used to train?
yeah, I remember that. Well, I mean, when you're 12, unless you're really, really good, and I was only really good, basically. So you do have a few weaknesses. I mean, mine were probably positional play and then games, because end games, it's a lot of work. And of course, when I say end games, I don't mean end games where you have to calculate things until the end, like a pawn end game, because I was actually picking up things quite fast. But say technical rook end games, which ones are won, which ones are lost, and this took actually quite a lot of time from me, and I think it was my main direction of work. I mean, because it just didn't make sense to work on my tactical skills at that point. So I think, end games and...
Were you guided by trainers? You must have had people helping you, guiding you at that period.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I've had some good help. I mean, of course, I mean, the point is you always have to be a bit lucky also to come to the top, and of course you have to make the right decisions, to find the right trainers, and it was.
What do you mean a bit lucky? Just say a little bit more about that. A bit lucky to get to the top.
No,
at that kind of age, you mean, when you're young?
Yeah, you have to take the. I mean, you're not really conscious of the decisions you're making. So I mean, you might go to one club instead of the other because it's closer to your home, something like this. Of course, I mean, actually, when you're 12, I mean, it might not be the case anymore. But I mean, you see what I mean? That
Right.
I mean, you can have one trainer who is a good fit for you, or he might not, and it's difficult to change at that age.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions from our studio audience? Kevin, yes, sir?
Yeah, Maxime, what do you consider chess? Is it a sport? Is it a pastime? Or art form? Or somebody recently said, complete waste of time?
So what do you consider chess? Sport, art form, or waste of time? Or something else?
You know, I could actually say it's a waste of time because I enjoy very much wasting time. So. That's one of the best things in life. But in general, I mean, it's becoming more and more like a sport. I mean, because I mean the amount of preparation we have to make prior to the games, prior to tournaments, and the kind of physical routine we also have to use, because simply to be able to hold up that pressure. So it's really, I mean, more and more a sport every day.
Maxime, a question here, I think from our team here. You have a college degree.
Yeah.
What strategy? In what? What do you?
In mathematics.
Mathematics. All right, I didn't know that. Did that help shape your good study habits? And did you derive benefit from that for your chess career? Do you think?
I was
Because many top 10 players don't have that, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I might have been a lousy student. I was really. I mean, I was pursuing my studies in mathematics also because it didn't take me too much time, because I was feeling pretty comfortable with it, but in that way it might also not have been the best of ideas, because I would simply, I mean, work on my exams. I mean,
did you study? Sorry.
Probably less than a week before it started, and I would miss, of course, a lot of weeks of university because of tournaments. So, you know.
But my question was, did you study maths or pursue maths because you found it very easy, or because you had a passion for it?
A bit of both. I mean, actually, I stopped basically right at the moment where I thought it would take too much time out of my chess, because it was becoming just less easy to grasp. I mean, I knew that if I wanted to keep on, I would have to actually invest some time in it and on it, and that was not, you know, what I was mainly devoted for. But of course, anytime I come across a math article, I see something I've studied or I find interesting, I read it with great pleasure.
Okay, interesting. So would you say that's one of your hobbies, mathematics, these days, or not really?
Well, not really, because I don't spend enough time on it, unfortunately. But yeah, maybe at some point I will try to, you know, reconnect a thing or two on that subject.
And had you not had such a promising chess career at that time, you know, as an option, do you think you would have maybe gone into academia, or maybe
I would definitely have pursued mathematics. That's what I liked most and what I was best at. So, you know, in a sense, I was lucky in that respect.
Interesting.
Apart from chess, of course.
Apart from chess, yeah. Okay. Any other questions here? I mean, maybe online. So Tim, at the end, yeah.
Yes, Maxime, maybe a trade secret if you don't want to divulge, but when you're analysing a particularly complicated line like this, would you use several engines like Stockfish, Komodo, Houdini, and compare the results, or is there one you really trust?
Yeah, do you use several engines, or do you sort of rely on one, or?
Well, in general, there's one engine I like very much using, because I grasp its evaluations, if that's a thing, and that's quite important. I mean, to really know what an engine means when he gives an evaluation. But of course, in some positions, it's quite nice to have second opinions.
You often, I have a follow-up question. You often get these kind of problem situations where they keep returning 0-0, and it's because the computer is looking for a perpetual check or a forced repetition, and it's not necessarily getting to the heart of the position.
Well, we just saw, I think Maxime was saying that this game here, I mean, many times with best play, it would have, or computer play, it would have fizzled out at different stages, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, the point is sometimes the best practical decision is also one where you take risk, actual risk to be worse, and of course computers don't like that. But of course, I mean, generally we have more than one line. I mean, when we use the engine, we don't, of course, look at only one line, but we have 3 or 4 lines coming up, and so we can decide which one will be the most reasonable. Of course, we still miss things, but it's more likely.
Maxime, what about Fischer Random? Have you ever played Fischer Random chess? Is that so? I'm just the other side of the coin, like no computer preparation at all. Is that something that appeals to you? Have you tried it?
Well, be careful because, you know, I mean, when you say it, I mean, you might think I'm joking, but I'm sure that, you know, if we started Fischer Random, people would start, you know, creating databases for every single position. And it wouldn't take so long to actually pick up some actual theories there. So, you know, it's a solution, but not a solution, a long-term solution. Also, most of the positions are actually not really playable because White's advantage is just too big there. So, I mean...
So it's something you've looked at a little bit or played a little bit, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit, of course. I mean, I saw also some positions where you, for instance, you would make black play a6 and white to move. I mean, in the
initial position.
Yeah, in the initial position, and
that'd be good for the knight off.
No, but the game just becomes much more drawish. That's the problem. It's like, I mean, if white starts with a3, I mean, it just becomes really drawish because white's advantage is becoming smaller and smaller. And if you give white an extra tempi, I mean, it also doesn't make too much sense because black is already having such a hard time theoretically to have winning chances. So, you know, I mean, there's no obvious solution, but at the moment, you know, we still have a lot of exciting games, so that's a good thing. Of course, we have too many, you know, theoretical lines which are which are worked out until the end. So that's not a good thing. Maybe one of the options in the future is to focus on rapid play. I don't know if, you know, I like the idea so much because rapid play is really fun, but of course it's nice to have classical time controls as the main standards, but that's generally, I mean, not the way things go. I mean, things go faster and faster in everyday's life, so that's probably what's going to come up in the future. Maybe rapid Fischer Random for the most desperate.
And okay, well, just maybe we should finish soon because I don't want to keep you here too late. But maybe just looking ahead the next year or two, your kind of ambitions. Obviously, you just want to keep getting better and winning, and potential world championship match at some point was something you would love, I'm sure.
No, of course. Well, I mean, there's one thing I need to do first. It's to qualify for candidates, and I think I'm becoming more and more ready every day. So I'm definitely hoping to qualify for 2018 candidates. That's a long time ahead, but that's probably what will be my main focus in the next 2 years.
If you had to sit down and play Magnus a 12-game match tomorrow, how do you estimate your chances?
Well, at the moment, not so high, but I definitely hope to improve on that. But well, it really, I mean, the answer really doesn't matter at the moment. But of course, Magnus is the strongest player at the moment. He proves it even when he's playing bad chess. So, but I've been playing pretty stable chess for the last 6 months. That's not a lot. I hope to keep that trend going, and that will already be good news for whether I am a potential candidate for the title and whether I can threaten Magnus if it ever comes to that.
Okay, so at the moment you think Magnus is, I mean, he's just one Tarcher, of course, in Wijk. Did you get a chance to see some of the games? I guess you must have done.
Yeah, a little bit, but I didn't, delve deep into them.
Right. Okay, just to wind up, so here you're on Gibraltar, you've tell us how many points you have at the moment.
I'm on +4, so that's 5.5.
Right, happy?
Yeah, I mean, I've played sensible chess. I mean, in the last few days I was a bit sick, so that was not too good, but fortunately I managed to keep the results decent and to get my to get my shape a bit back in the last few days. So I mean, I'm ready for the final days, which definitely will be the most important.
We wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
The day's play brings you to the southernmost tip of Gibraltar, with breathtaking views of the Spanish shores and the Rift Mountains of North Africa. It's a bright and breezy afternoon. This is Europa Point. I'm International Master Tanya Sachdev. Welcome back. In round 7, 10 players lead the Masters event of the festival. The day's play caught up with one of the favorites, Grandmaster Hari Krishna, on his game with Abhijit Gupta.
It was quite interesting game today, and I chose Gukyo piano variation, and he defended quite well, and I think after that I had not many chances, and I decided to sacrifice material. It was like I had queen and he had rook and 2 pieces, but somehow it was enough only for a draw.
The Tradewise Gibraltar Chess Festival has always been a global event. This year, Gibraltar is host to players from 57 countries from all corners of the world. The festival truly exemplifies how the sport of chess bridges all barriers. We bring you impressions from across the seas. Let's hear from some of our competitors on why they come and why they return many times.
Why do I come? It's a great tournament. It's beautifully organized, and the atmosphere is always exciting. You see a lot of people who you admire.
I keep coming to Gibraltar because it's like a second home to me.
I'm from Kyrgyzstan, Bishkek.
I come from Sweden and I came here because I heard it's a really good tournament and it's around the biggest tournament in the world.
Gibraltar Festival has always been my dream tournament, and this is a really very beautiful place.
I come all the way from Argentina actually, because this is the best tournament, open tournament in the world.
I came here to win a lot of money.
The atmosphere is so great here, people are so friendly, and I'm really very excited to be here.
It's really exciting to see, the broad range of countries, about 57 represented here. So I think that really does add to the flavor of being in Gibraltar.
I will recommend people to come to Gibraltar because it's not only about the chess, because you can play chess in any tournament in the world, but it's more about the people, the place and activities besides chess too.
Chess has many faces, and one of our very special competitors, Chuka from Argentina, gives us a song. Something special to finish the day's play for today.
Every time I have come here, I come here since year, I think 2005 was my first time. I belong to Judith Polgar Chess Foundation, that is getting chess into other spheres of culture and society, like very educational tools through chess. And that's very motivating for me as an artist to be able to collaborate in something from this point, because chess should be much more involved with society and culture.
With 4 rounds to go, the field is wide open and anything can happen. We'll make sure you don't miss any of the moves on and off the board. See you tomorrow.
Las estrellas